to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
There we go. We are live with episode 416 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Say hello, everybody that's here.
Hello, everybody that's here.
That's a big number. That is a big number.
That is a big
Good
number.
on you guys.
Good on us for continuing up with 2 podcasts a week. We are so dedicated.
The most dedicated.
So I was at work today. Well, first here, Punch, Dom, and Chira are all here.
Yo,
Yeah,
sure
we
are.
obviously
Know who's here.
You were at work today.
Of course, like every other day during the week. And I walked in the back, and I was talking to. There's a lady who works back there in shipping, and I got in a conversation with her, and I was explaining to her about what my wife is going to be doing after she gets out of school, because she's in grad school right now. And go through the conversation, and she stops and she goes, "You're in the wrong profession." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm in IT, for those of you that don't know. And she's like, "You should be a public speaker." She goes, "The way you were explaining this to me and the way you talk, you just explain things really well. Like, even like the normal person can understand it." And she's like, "You just have
Was
a really
she
good
jerking
speaking
you
voice."
off at the same time
No,
that
she
she was telling you
wasn't.
this? Because that's what this is turning
But it
into
made
you
me
talking about and doing to yourself.
I'm getting somewhere with this. It made me laugh because for everybody out there listening, you guys know what podcasts are, and I was like, "Well, thanks, thanks for the compliment. I do a podcast 2 times a week," and her eyes like glazed over as she was telling me this, right? And
God, what?
yeah, I'm like,
What is this technology?
And I didn't want to spend the time explaining what a podcast and stuff was, but it still surprises me to this day that people don't know what podcasts are. But then again, I get surprised when people don't know to download add-ons or to not download add-ons to get a piece of paper, like a PDF. Don't download an add-on, people. If there's something out there that says you can get this PDF if you download this add-on or install this exe. And I'm still surprised that people do that. And I'm surprised people don't know what a password reset feature is or how to use control paste.
So you're telling me that if I forgot my password, I should click on the button that says, "Did you forget your password?"
That would be very helpful.
Should I do that, or is that a scam?
And also understand
People tell me not to
scam.
trust the internet.
it's a scam.
Please understand what URLs are, because you get an email. Maybe if you get an email, read the email. I mean, I can go on, dude. I should just have an hour of bitching about how stupid
Now,
people are.
okay. So how old was this individual? Because this should help answer all
she
the
was
questions.
I mean, that really, it does
see,
explain.
there it is. Like, I don't know, for anyone who's ever tried to explain anything technology related to a grandparent, that's what it is, except it's somebody who's only like 20 years older than you.
Yeah.
You'd think they could maybe figure something out.
You have
I don't
with
know.
those types of people. You have 2 camps. You have the people who are really excited about technology and what it can do, but because it has advanced like further than they really anticipated it in their lifetime, like they just have a harder time picking that type of stuff up. But generally speaking, they're really easy to work with. Like, it's going to take you a little bit, but they're going to get where you want them to go. And then you have the people who just straight up dig their heels in with technology at all. They don't want to have anything to do with
They're
it.
like,
They can't
"Run it
believe
back."
that their job involves using computers now. And they're the people who are like really, really difficult and you want to avoid at all costs, because
I
they're
just
gonna
learned
make
how to
your
use
life
the
harder.
fax machine. Why can't we keep the fax machine?
Fuck
Yeah.
that.
It works fine.
Get rid of your archaic technology, Grandma. Go back to the Stone
I
Age.
love though how your entire story basically translates to, I told this lady some stuff. She was like, "Man, you're good at speaking, kid." And then you're like, "Yeah, I do it all the time." And her brain was like, "I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Go die."
I mean,
Her
you
brain
could
probably didn't swear.
You could sum up most stories in such a dumbed down manner. Just like I explained to the child tonight what cancer is. I said it's something that kills your body. And they're like, "Well,
Wow.
there's got," and he goes, "There's got to be more to it." I'm like, "Yeah, there is. I just don't feel like explaining it to you right now." And that's where the conversation ended.
Yeah. You know what?
Trinity Force Podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, teaching life lessons since what? How long? has it been now?
2011.
In 2011. There you go.
Right. Yes, we started in 2011. So let's get back onto the topic of League of Legends. We spoke about Warwick a bit on Monday. We're going to talk about him some more tonight because I've put some time into him over the last weekend. And furthermore, before we jump into that, on Monday, Marine Revenge is coming on the podcast. He is the Garen main master, Garen main top lane. Of course, just make sure no one gets confused thinking it's maybe jungle or mid. Top lane Garen main. He's coming on Monday, or support, yes. And he is going to talk with us about top lane, specifically top lane, not so much Garen. So if you want to learn all about Garen and how to do everything, you can go check that out by going to patreon.com/TForce Network, and you can hear his 90 minutes on Garen, right? Like, you never think you'd talk about that much. So,
didn't know it was possible.
Right, I didn't either. So yeah, he's coming on Monday. So if you have a question that pertains to top lane, it doesn't have to be about Garen. It can be about anything that's going on in the top lane. How to play the map, how to CS, how to use the bushes, whatever it may be. Please write us feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. I've also posted on our Facebook over at T-Force Network. I've also posted on our subreddit at T-Force Network. You can go just post a question, and we'll try to work it into the podcast because you guys are helping us to find questions to talk to him about. Now, this is going to be an overall discussion. It's not so much of an interview style because I want to have everybody have a conversation about top lane and him weigh in as well. But I just think he'll be a pretty fun guest to have on Monday. So you all have that to look forward to. And, of course, next week will be a patch week as well. We'll talking about that on Wednesday. So we have 7.2 that is out. With 7.2 came Warwick. And he has had a complete total rework. You heard about his lore somewhat on Monday, and we're going to talk about him this evening. So I guess I'm just going to continue talking because I think, Punch, you're the only one that has played Warwick.
I have played a game of Warwick, yes. And we surrendered at 20.
I did play him in a bot game, so I get how his stuff works and everything. Thought it was really fun, actually. Thought it was really, really fun to play.
He looks really fun.
Anytime I'm going to be playing jungle, he's the guy I'm going to right now.
Yeah, he is a lot of fun to play. That's a really good way to sum him up. I think he's in a pretty good spot right now when it comes to balance and whatnot. Of course, any champion could use some tweaks here and there, especially different levels of play, but I think that if you're looking for a champion, I would actually go with Warwick as one of those beginner jungling champions again. We always said previously that, Warwick is probably the beginner, and then with the jungle changes, that changed a bit because he was a little bit harder to play. So, got distracted. Sorry.
Yeah, so but on that note, like, they did a fantastic job of keeping Warwick's same play style at the same time making him more complex, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see how he could still be a beginner champion because he should be able to clear the jungle very healthily. I mean, from top lane, I could just go take Gromp and finish Gromp at full health, just by all the lifesteal you get. And he's still pretty straightforward in his play style too.
He can be. He can be very straight. He can be played straightforward. Like, if you want to just run in and do your thing, he'd be played pretty straightforward. But there is a lot of nuances to his kit. So,
sure.
Like, the pieces...
Well, that was the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is to make it so he's not just a right-click and an ult bot.
No, not so much anymore. He's got, with his E. So, just to run through his abilities real quick. His Q is now it's a lunge.
It's a roll.
1 second. Do you guys get to hear this? Child, I'm in the middle of a podcast. You're not going to be able to talk to me or ask me questions. So, I'm going to have to tell you to go talk to your mother. There we go. Well, don't ask. You guys get to listen to this. Everybody in the podcast side, this is what's like having children sometimes. I'm sorry I cannot help you, child. Come here. Come here, Nikki. Just come here. Everybody, this is Nikki. Say hello.
Hi, Nikki.
Hello, Nikki.
Hey, Nikki.
Say hi. Okay, now go look for clothes. All right, now let's get back to talking about Warwick a little bit more. So, they run down his kit real fast. W still... Or excuse me, we'll go with his passive. His passive is still the lifesteal passive, but it's when he's below 50% of his maximum health, his basic attacks heal him now, so he's not always getting healed when he's auto-attacking. He has to have...
He has the threshold.
Removed. Yes. And that is also tripled to below 25% maximum health, so he gets a ton of healing back. But his basic attacks also do extra damage, magic damage on hit. So it's pretty much the same passive before. Q is it's a lunge, like a chomp, and if you hold down Q, you will go through the target or follow the target. So, like, if Ezreal E's or somebody takes one of those blast plants, and you hold down Q, you will fly with them.
Or Tom Kench eats the target.
Oh yeah,
I think it also goes through teleport.
Yeah,
I think that was a thing. Yeah.
Imagine like Thresh Lantern. You can get extra long hook if your target's on there. That might be bad news, but be funny. There are just a lot of really interesting interactions with the way Q works because you can end up following people really long distances.
Yeah, it requires very specific timing, but the potential is there.
It's pretty hard to do. And I'll get into that a little bit as we talk about it. So his Q is doing magic damage. It actually has a 1.2 AD ratio on it, and it's doing 6 to 10% of the target's maximum health with every chomp, and that heals you every time you use it as well.
I think it's important to note it also applies on hit effects. So his passive is going into that, and any of the on hit items you might be inclined to buy are also, playing into what Q does.
Do we know if his passive is going into that? 'Cause his passive states basic attacks.
No, they wouldn't. It's not a basic.
It says magic damage on hit.
Are you?
Man, they are so confusing with their wording.
No, Warwick's basic attacks deal bonus magic damage on hit. Q doesn't count as a basic attack. So,
but then they include on hit, and Q says on hit effects.
Sheen is an on hit effect. Like that generally applies to basic attacks until you started getting into the nuances of spells.
No, Warwick's passive wouldn't trigger with it because it's not a basic attack. Like his basic attacks are what's dealing that extra damage.
Well, doesn't his Q does heal him though, which has to come from his passive.
His Q heals him for a percentage.
His Q has a built-in heal amount.
And it heals for a percentage of the damage dealt, and my interpretation of that also accounts for the on-hit effects. Like, it says applying on-hit effects and healing himself for a portion of the damage dealt.
Right.
So up to 80% or up to 70% of all the damage that is dealt, including any on-hit effects on there. It's just really confusing wording there.
I don't think it. I know it doesn't add the passive to it just because it's not a basic attack, and they would code it that way unless it's some kind of bug, and then it's not supposed to. But so Warwick's W is now Blood Hunt. This is the kind of confusing one because it's got a passive and an active piece to it. So if you haven't played Warwick, or if you're below 50% life, Warwick automatically gains your scent and gets a trail leading to you. So if he runs at you, he gains bonus movement speed while running at you, and that's anywhere on the map. You could be at the other end of you could be in your base, and he could still run at you with that extra movement speed. So it helps him run through the jungle in mid and late game when people are kind of low, which is really nice. I love it when I get blood scent running out of the base and I get this extra movement speed for nothing.
That is a nice ability. Not so nice when you're in top lane, and then it triggered randomly. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I followed the path all the way down my minimap to bot lane. I'm like, well, that's not going to help me, because I'm stuck up here.
Oh, yeah, you're jungling, and within like the first 2.5 minutes, the passive will always proc.
Yeah, when you're jungling, yes, fantastic.
Oh, even then, it's just weird. You're like, all right, well, who is doing well in what lane? That's what I do. I'm like, all right, well, it procced. Who has got who below half life? And I have to look at every lane.
And to play against it, like, so I think I played bot lane with you or Dom. You were probably playing Warwick, so it had to be Dom, where the enemy team had a Warwick, and then I was at 50% health or lower.
I was playing Mouse.
And then I immediately started freaking out because whenever you get smelled by Warwick, some creepy music starts playing, and you don't know where Warwick is, but he knows that you're low health. So I'm like, well, I'm influenced to start playing a little bit farther back, because at any point Warwick could come barreling out of the jungle and they'll leap at my face, and I don't want that to happen.
Right. So if you activate it, you gain blood scent automatically on anybody that is within the radius. Oh, well, it blood hunts the nearest enemy champion that is to you when you activate it, and it's got a pretty decent range. Like I think you could pop it at third base turret and hit mid after a couple points into it, if I remember correctly.
That part of his W was actually scarier to get affected by, because I was walking again. I'm an innocent Varus walking in the bot lane river, and then Warwick starts smelling me with the blood hunt, but I'm at full health. So I immediately know, wait a minute, he must have activated it, which means he knows I'm here, which means he's coming to kill me right now, and that's what happened. I died.
I mean, that's also opens up some interesting room for mind game stuff, in that you can activate it and not go down there. You can activate it to screw with somebody if you're killing Scuttle Crab or something like that. So if somebody's playing aggressive, you can force them to play back, because you just be like, hey, I'm not actually coming up there.
Yeah, it happened again later where I was in our bot side jungle and it got put on me. Blood Hunt got put on me, but he actually ganked mid lane. I'm pretty sure that wasn't intentional. I think he just thought he was close enough to mid lane to actually hunt them, but it got on me somehow, so it kind of screwed him over. But I guess it worked out.
It worked out for him, right?
Because he got a kill.
I was gonna say the cool thing about this whole active and passive piece is that below 50%, that he gains extra. Like if the target is below 20% of the maximum health, the bonus movement and attack speed are tripled against that champion. So if you're at 20% or lower life, you could have up to 330% bonus attack speed and 165% bonus movement speed. And movement speed affects his ultimate, how long he can leap, or how far he can leap.
The confusing thing about this ability is how the cooldown works.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I really don't... I think it's a really, really cool ability, and it encourages a lot of good behaviors, at least on the passive side. But the cooldown is just... It's outright confusing. Blood Hunt cannot be activated while in combat with a champion. Okay, that's fine. And cools down twice as fast if Warwick is not blood hunting.
Right.
Which, like, is a one-of-a-kind cooldown in this game right now. And I guess that's an accomplishment considering how long this game's been around. But it just, like, it's outright confusing. It almost feels like using the ability and then trying to do things means you're going to get punished for doing things.
It's really not as... I mean, it sounds bad.
It sounds bad, but
it's never like that. It's up when you need it.
Well, here's the other piece of that. If it's not up and nobody's low, it's coming off cooldown faster.
Right.
And if it's not up and it's cooldowning slow, it's because you're already blood hunting somebody else.
No, or somebody is... Wait, so I guess then I'm misinterpreting it. You know, is blood hunted... That's just the passive effect, right? That's how they describe it right now.
Yes.
So if somebody is low, you can be on the other side of the map and have just used the ability. But if somebody else across the map is low, your ability is going to spend a really long time getting on cooldown, and there's not a whole lot that you can do about that.
Yes.
That's what I don't like about it. Like, it's sort of taking this.
It's not as bad as you think it would be. Like I understand. Okay. Like if we were to go over this champion previous to me having played him a bunch, I would have agreed with you that it's really annoying and it's awkward to have that. But after playing it, it's not like you don't see the hindrance in it ever. Like, you get the blood hunt when you want it, or it just incentivizes you to walk down there and then go to that target and ult them, right? Like, or it's up when you need it. I mean, it's only 120-second cooldown and you're maxing it first.
Only.
Well,
yeah, I think that's the important part.
Only.
It's 120, but you're maxing it first, so it cuts in half down to 60.
Yeah, I mean, this is a basic ability. It's not an ult or something. Like, a minute cooldown on... It
cuts it down. It's less than 120 seconds because you use it and then if that champion goes above 50%, you automatically have a 2-second it cools down at double the rate. So it cools down for 2 points for every 1 second, or 2 seconds for every 1 second you're in the game, right? As long as nobody's there. So, like, it really, honestly, it's almost always it's a 60-second cooldown at rank 1, maybe 70 seconds rather.
And this isn't something you're going to be using like multiple times in a fight either. It's just
you can't. Yeah.
You can't use it.
You're going to use it, roam for a while, and then by the time you need it again, it should be there.
It's more, I don't fully understand why this mechanic was implemented the way it was. It sort of seems like they are overthinking what was really necessary here.
I think it might make him too powerful if you could activate it whenever you wanted to, because you gain all that extra movement speed, and movement speed affects his ultimate range.
No, I'm fine with the part where you can't activate it while in combat.
No, I meant just in general.
But that's important, not being able to activate it in combat.
Sure. No, it doesn't really matter, though, because, like, if everybody's grouped together, if there's 3 people grouped together and you're blood hunting one person, you're still getting that ultimate range. So it doesn't matter who you're running at. The only time it matters is if they do this weird, if they scatter in a weird direction and you're not running toward that person anymore. As long as you're blood hunting somebody and you're running at 3 people, you keep that blood scent going. Or blood hunting, whatever you want to call it.
It seems like the thing most likely to get changed. I feel like that is something that holds him back more than people are able to fully appreciate.
I don't think it does. After playing it, I just don't feel that. I've never felt like I was gated by blood hunt ever.
It just feels like kind of like a needless complexity to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, couldn't you find a cooldown in between 120 and 60 to kind of normalize it too?
Even if it was a static cooldown, I mean, I guess it's there to sort of be kind of a. They don't want it to feel super punishing, but they still don't want you to be able to use it all. Like, I mean,
it's a gate, but
yeah,
it's just a weird.
It's a weird way to gate it. It's sort of, if you pop it and it's not successful, but nobody is ever within blood hunt radius of you, or they're not low health, then it'll be up when you want it to be sooner.
Maybe it incentivizes going after that target. Like, maybe that was their idea, that if somebody's at low health for a really long period of time, then it makes you want to go attack them. But I mean, the passive should persuade you to do that anyway.
In that vein, and me bringing up earlier that you can use it as a sort of mind game tool or something like that, all it really says is that if you use it, you should probably commit to whatever you're using it for.
Oh, and you do. That's when you're using it. You are committing. And I mean, it's not like you can't use it if you're already blood hunting somebody, right? Like, if you're blood hunting bottom lane, you can still use it to gank mid lane as long as it's off a cooldown. It just means it has a longer cooldown. But you're maxing it first. And like I previously said, it's not 120. It's not a 2-minute cooldown when you use it, because it does go off of I don't know how to explain it. It does go off of cooldown, air quotes.
It turns off.
It turns off, right? Like, and then it cools down really fast. So it's more like more like 100-second cooldown at rank 1 maybe, and then it drastically decreases from there because you're putting points into it. I don't know. Like I said, I agree with you now. I'd agree with you 100% if I hadn't already played him.
I mean, I otherwise really, really like this ability. I think it was a much, much cooler.
Oh, it's way better.
Well, it's more engaging now too.
Yeah, it's way, way cooler than his old W was.
Speaking of which, how does the sight work on this one compared to the old one? Because the old one just gave you sight of the person you were hunting, right?
You don't get sight of them. You just get the blood trail.
So you just see a passive going in.
But you get the blood trail irrespective. Yeah. And it kind of adjusts with the path that you're taking. I can't tell if it gives you the most efficient path or what it thinks the most efficient path is and everything. And keeping in mind that the person's going to be moving around anyway. You know, it's more like it's just pointing you in the direction that you should go if you want to murder somebody.
It's really nice for when people are trying to juke you and you just, you have that ward available. I have, because of Blood Hunt, I have not been upgrading to Sweeper because I don't need to stop and sweep something to be able to gank somebody. You just run right straight through it. And it's really nice because you can just ward into a bush as you're running at somebody and then jump on them or whatever you want to do. So I've been keeping my yellow trinket when I play.
That's good to know. I hadn't really thought about that. Support players, you should probably ward up a little bit further than you're otherwise inclined to, because like Hecarim and Ramus and that type of thing, you need to see them ahead of time to react, because if you're catching them in the brush or whatever,
it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So piercing or primal howl, primal howl is his new E, which makes me think that he potentially could be a top laner if the meta shifts a bit, because he can't be dove under a tower at any point in time as long as he has E. Oops. So the way it works is if you activate it, while it's activated, you have a 35% damage reduction, and that scales to 55% based on level. And then once the damage reduction ends, Warwick howls, and he fears the target, causing them to flee for 1 second. And you can deactivate this early while you, while you're
chasing
running
somebody.
Yeah.
If you want the fear instead of the damage reduction, you can deactivate it and get the fear earlier.
That fear does slow them by 33%.
It doesn't slow.
A third of the movement speed. I'm just hovering over that flee mechanic on the wiki, and it says flee makes the target run directly away from you with 33% reduced movement speed. So yeah, it is effective for catching up with people.
It's nice because you just run at somebody, you can flash engage and pop Primal Howl, and you can fear them, and then jump through them to get you get the idea behind a fear, right? It's just kind of like basic League mechanics at this point.
I wasn't paying attention the times that I played him. It's worth noting that landing Infinite Duress will automatically reactivate Primal Howl, but the target won't flee. So that means if you hit Infinite Duress, you're going to lose the damage reduction.
Yes.
It reactivates it, meaning you have the damage reduction. But it
reactivates it, meaning you lose the damage reduction.
Yeah, in the spotlight, he automatically howled when he landed the ultimate.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So and I'm only bringing that up because I think a lot of people would be inclined to turn that on and then tower dive using their ult and everything, and that's a good idea until you note that specific point, because now you're going to take full damage from the turret, and that might be enough to kill you.
Right. So
which might be why that exists, because he seems like a pretty damn good tower diver as is.
Yeah, probably why it exists. I'm just like, it's important to note that.
Mm-hmm.
So infinite duress has been changed. It's still the same. It is this. If you are used to playing Warwick, infinite duress is the same. You suppress somebody for 3 seconds, doing 3 hits, or not 3 seconds, 1.5 seconds, getting off 3 auto attacks, and it applies on-hit effects 3 times.
And I looked into this while we were talking. Everything I've read suggests that both Q and R are applying his passive.
Really?
Yes.
All right. So that the difference between this infinite duress and the old one is that the range is based on your movement speed, so it's based on 250% of your current movement speed, and it's also a skill shot now. So you can miss it, but that means you can also use it to jump over objects. I have used it to jump away from bad engages, or if I get caught out somewhere. That's where Primal Howl comes into factor. You activate Primal Howl, you're taking less damage, and you just hop away, which isn't the best use of Infinite Duress, because it actually has a fairly decent cooldown, 110 seconds at rank 1, 90, 70, and you feel that in the early and mid game with the first 2 points into it. You feel that cooldown. Like, every time I go to gank, I have 30 more seconds generally on my cooldown, and I'm like, I just wish this was up. So, that's all of his abilities. Is how he works. It's pretty much old Warwick with new. So the things, if you jump into a game and you want to play Warwick, something that I learned is you have to 100% pick up Tiamat on your first pack. If you don't have Tiamat in your inventory, it's very, very hard for you to clear the jungle.
And that's even with
go ahead,
leveling up W first.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, because the weird thing about W is that, so if you're at Raptors and you get one of them below 50% life, you only get that attack speed on that item, or excuse me, that monster that is below 50%. You can't just leave one monster 50% and then have that extra attack speed on everything you're attacking. So that's where Tiamat comes in handy, though, because you can get everything below 50%. That way you just get a bunch of really fast auto attacks in a row, and you can just, swipe and clear the entire game.
I see. Because otherwise the target switching would just take forever.
Right. So that's what
Tiamat Raptors are his bane right now.
Raptors and Krugs. Krugs suck to take until you get Tiamat. I mean, you have to take them early now because of the whole weird, the experience reduction on Krugs until you take them the first time. So you have to go kill them without Tiamat. But every time that I have played Warwick, my first back, I've been able to purchase it because I start with the Lifesteal jungling item and a Rejuve bead. Like, I don't need a leash if I'm in the jungle. You are healthy enough through having a 1-point W that that extra attack speed allows you to gain the extra life and yada yada, right, through how everything works. But obviously you always want a leash if you can get it, because it helps you move through the jungle faster.
I mean, it's a speed thing,
right? So my jungle path most of the time have been with him. I always start blue because having Q up to keep myself relatively healthy has been really nice. I don't get that extra life. I don't get the extra life steal, but I don't need it either because Q is doing, percent of the target's max HP. So I'm starting W, I'm going into Q, and then I'm either putting a point in Q or E, depending on what is going on in the game. Because as soon as I hit level 3, if I have red buff and I'm able to gank a lane, I'm putting a point in E so I can fear. Otherwise, if it looks like I'll be able to go through till 4, I'll wait till 4 to put another point in E, or put a point in E, and I'll put another point in W to help clear faster. Because the whole thing that I'm looking at with Warwick now is I need to get to 6 as fast as possible, but I have really good ganks with red. I have really, really good ganks with red buff. How
even pre-6?
Pre-6, you have phenomenal ganks with red buff because Q allows you to jump through the target, which gives you a lead on the target.
And it's going to apply red buff.
Yeah, man, it applies a red buff. So then you get the lead on the target to continue to apply red buff, and you get the fear through Primal Howl. So you can, you can flash fear somebody if they have already blown flash, or you can just run up, Q through them, howl, and then apply red buff and force a flash out of somebody. So he has really, really good ganks with red.
Is it reasonable to say he has good ganks? That doesn't mean they're easy ganks.
Yeah, nothing's easy.
Well, I mean, there are some champions who have, Hecarim's ganks are not especially difficult. Those are pretty easy ganks to pull off, for example. But, Warwick, you have to work on it, but they are good, all said and done.
Most of the time when you're ganking, somebody is at 50% life right? Like how many when you're playing that game, like I said, by 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which is about what is the normal thing? They say about 250 is the first time any jungler is going to come top side at level 3 is about 230 or 250, and by that time somebody top side is going to be at 50% or below life, and I'm going to have
especially that's the difference in one person just out trading the other person that early. You know, I mean that's pretty normal to see something like that happen. So. Of course he's going to be able to go in and do stuff.
Yeah. He can activate Blood Scent as well, or Blood Hunt.
Right.
Oh, right. Well, that kind of negates the question I was going to ask, which was if you didn't have Blood Hunt available for your ganking target, did Q have enough range that you felt like you could still get close enough to them? Because I know it's more than melee range, but it's still pretty short. Yeah,
it's a short range.
So
Primal Howl has enough range. You have to have Blood Hunt activated to get it timing. But Primal Howl has enough range that I think Primal Howl is probably the same radius as Q, but it feels a little longer. Because you can howl and jump through somebody. Yeah, I don't have data on it either. I'm sure they're the same radius when all is said and done. But so far, like I said, you have to go Tiamat, and then every time after I go Tiamat, I buy boots. I go into Blood Razor, and I've been getting Chilling Smite a lot because I always feel like the moment I hit 6, someone's dying. It's just like previous Warwick. When I hit 6, someone is dead. I don't care what happens, right? And there's been so many times where I've jumped on a target. I have done my full combo through a Q auto reset Tiamat Q, and I've got them at the sliver of life, and I just need to chase them down to get another Q to finish them, and they run away because I don't have Chilling Smite. I like that better than I like getting Challenging Smite. As much as it would, it makes sense to pick up Challenging Smite on him because you're staying on top of the target. Chilling Smite just allows you to stay on top of somebody, and you don't need red buff then to gank. So, I mean, and if we're talking pro play, obviously no one's getting Chilling Smite, but I think really if you're playing this character, you're playing him to carry yourself through solo queue, and Chilling Smite is the way to go for that.
You did lament multiple times that somebody would just barely escape.
I built like an
I wish I kept track of how many times it happened, and then at some point you got Chilling Smite, and it was okay.
Yeah.
So what runes were you running on him?
I run my Caitlyn page.
So you're running attack speed quints then. If you're maxing...
No, attack damage quints. Attack speed marks, attack speed glyphs, armor.
Oh, yellows. So you're running a bunch of attack speed elsewhere then.
I only run all that.
W, do you really need?
I said the same thing. I don't know yet.
Since Q is going to scale with 120% of your AD at rank 1.
I do it so I can get through my first jungle clear and get Tiamat faster. It's all for that first 3 or 4 levels, right? Because if I didn't have it, I'd feel like I'd be sitting there forever auto-attacking or something, but at the same time I'd probably be doing more damage. You probably don't need that extra attack speed. Because I asked myself the same question. I think I even brought it up one time. I think Punch, we were in the game, and I said to you, I don't think I need this attack speed. I think I could just take my Jhin runes, right? Just straight attack damage. But I haven't tried it. I've just been taking my Caitlyn runes.
And I only bring it up because you guys are both pushing maxing W. Champion.gg right now has max Q, and they're both most frequent and highest win percent. They're between the two. There's 11,000 games,
which is what you started with, right, Pum?
Yeah, I started with max Q.
Yeah,
and
they have W was better.
Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense to run attack speed if you're maxing Q. Because you're gonna want that, you're gonna want that for your initial clears and everything. But if you're maxing W, to me it seems like you almost just wouldn't need it because you're getting so much attack speed from ranking up W just passively, and then when they get low, you're getting so much more. In fact, their highest win percent runes have movement speed quints for what that's worth.
And I need to change it. I've just been playing with whoever I have, right?
But they're running AD reds, so they don't have any attack speed on that page.
I don't think I need the attack speed. Honestly, it's just one of those. I just haven't changed my runes because I've been playing the same champion. Why fuck with my runes and masteries, right?
I was really just curious there because I mean, you look at his kit and it does say on hit for all of his abilities, so that makes you start thinking, okay, well, get on hit items while I'm at it, and on hit items, synergize pretty well with attack speed.
See, I think I see a lot of people fall into the trap of running Fervor on him as well, because you're thinking I'm going to stack up Fervor a lot when I ult somebody, but Courage of the Colossus ends up feeling better. And so does all those defensive, and so do all the defensive masteries. Because once you're in, you're not really doing damage enough through Blood Razor. I didn't mention that. You're picking up Blood Razor because you're applying Blood Razor through Q, obviously, and you're applying Blood Razor through 3 hits of his ultimate. So you're doing, what's that? 3% Blood Razor? If there's 3, 6, 9, 12% maximum health.
Something like that, yeah. Plus the max health on Q.
Right. So you're doing pretty much 20% max health.
In fact, yeah, 1 Q is gonna hit them for like fucking 13% of their HP. That's insane.
Yeah, he does a ton of damage. That's why you would be incentivized to build, you go down Fervor, but it just feels better to have Courage of the Colossus since you're in there and you have that extra shield on top of the damage reduction on Primal Howl, that you don't need the extra damage because you're doing so much passively through Blood Razor. And he scales really well with AD, so you pick up. I've always been picking up Titanic Hydra as well.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. But to go back to Blood Hunt and Jaws of Beast, right? Jaws of Beast being his Q, Blood Hunt being W. I was maxing Q first out of the jungle, and I felt it was really good. And then I had talked to a couple of people, and they had mentioned maxing W. I went and read the ability, and it makes more sense to me to max W because you're gaining bonus movement speed every time you're blood hunting somebody automatically, and that allows you to gank and allows you to have a further range in your ultimate. I always felt like my ultimate, when I was maxing Q, wasn't long enough, even when I was blood hunting. But as soon as I started maxing W, my ultimate got to that range where I felt comfortable using it more often.
And it not only gives you that, but it over doubles the bonus attack speed you get. And like we said earlier, it cuts the cooldown by half. You get a ton from leveling W. And then when you look at Q, which, I think most people thought of as the first ability to max just by default, you don't gain that much. The mana goes up per level, and you do more damage according to target's maximum health from 6 to 10%.
Yeah,
and you get more healing. I mean, those are nice.
The big thing is the additional healing, and that's almost the only reason why I think you would level Q over E even.
That's the
thing. Like W to me seems like the best one, and then E would be the second best just because damage reduction is like it's hard to argue with that. But the extra healing, I mean, it's a considerable amount of healing.
That's the thing. I don't think I've never. I won't say never. I've felt the extra not having extra healing, but having that extra bonus movement speed to engage earlier with my ultimate, and you're using all these bonus stats and that lower cooldown to be able to gank more frequently with the buffs that you have. And Jaws of Beast, you're maxing second, so that is going up. And by the time you hit level, 12, 13, you are fully maxed with Jaws of Beast anyway. So, and by the time that you're that level, that's when you'd want Jaws of Beast to be maxed, because those become the big team fights where you need to be the tank and you need to stay in the fight longer. Before that, they're skirmishes, right? Up until level 11, everything that you do in the game is a skirmish, and then after level 11, they're full on team fights.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm a proponent of maxing Blood Hunt before Jaws of the Beast. I was doing Jaws of the Beast and then Primal Howl because I wanted the damage reduction, but that didn't even feel good when I was doing it. Primal Howl felt like I was wasting my points putting it into it.
Leveling Q first makes more sense out of the top lane.
For sure.
I mean, you're going to sustain for days if you do that. The only problem is, in that one game I played, I know, huge sample size, I actually felt like I was running myself out of mana. I was probably just using it too much because it has a short cooldown and it's pretty effective to last hit with. But, yeah.
That's why
mana was kind of sad.
I have considered running some kind of cooldown reduction, like 5% cooldown reduction out of my blues or something, to try to get Jaws of the Beast on just that little shorter cooldown, because every once in a while there's that extra second that I wish I had. I wish it was a 5-second cooldown instead of a 6 when it comes to a gank, because I just need to get that one more Q off to jump through the target and apply red buff.
So what you're saying is you should go 21 deep into Cunning to get yourself that cooldown reduction, and no, not Storm Raiders, get Intelligence. CVR cap is increased, and you gain.
I won't get enough out of Storm Raiders though. Like
no, you do Thunderlords, man. You do Thunderlords.
Shit.
So when you when you just hop onto them, like you deal all that extra bonus. No, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. I'd rather have Courage of the Colossus and Tenacity. Free Tenacity out of a tree. That's worth so much gold. But I think, Sean, this champion is for you, man. This is your jungle champion.
As soon as I have time to just do nothing but pump out games on it, all I want to do is play Warwick just because I love I love the thematics of running around on like a bestial wolf thing.
Were you ever a frequent original Warwick player?
I played him like not really, because there were champions that were just way more engaging.
Yeah, I mean, and that was what I was going to kind of get at. Like, I always hated how old Warwick's W and E worked. I mean, just he had two abilities that he could use, and if you're always on cooldown, he had one ability that he could use, you know, in a fight and that type of stuff. And this update very much remedies that.
It's not just that. I've also played, like, my favorite junglers were ganking junglers, and Warwick wasn't a ganking jungler.
Nope, not till 6.
Not at all. And now you have a little bit more agency in that, especially with being able to use Blood Hunt kind of whenever you feel like it, as long as it's not on cooldown. So that's nice.
I do think he will incent, like, they're trying to keep him to still be like a good sort of learner jungler, and I do think the way Blood Hunt works is going to really teach a lot of pretty good habits to people. My long-term worry is that new junglers will sort of depend too much on Blood Hunt working specifically the way it does, that they won't be able to translate that ability, you know, when it comes to other jungle champions. But I mean, that's a wait and see type of thing. I'm sure we'll never actually feel it in games, and that's not a good reason for Riot to not try something out like this.
There's something to that, but it's also now like they've clearly, the skill floor is still there for him to be used as a beginner jungler if people want to, and the thematic's there that, like, if you want to play him, he's a fucking cool looking wolf guy that kills stuff, and that's sweet. And the better part is they raised the skill ceiling on him. Yeah, you can actually do interesting shit now, which is something that you weren't able to do before. It was you were kind of just an auto attack bot with a suppress.
The shit that you can do on him now will translate to champions like Vi and Hecarim and that type of thing, and I think that's a real positive, as opposed to old Warwick, where, yeah, you would learn the jungle, but that's literally all you were doing, is learning the jungle, because you weren't learning how to do much of anything else useful. And I know that I'm sure there are Warwick mains out there who would disagree, and I guess I respect your opinion on that, but the reality is you're not representative of the majority of the players in this game, so sorry.
Well, there's little pieces to the Warwick, like the flash engage with E. I posted a Plays TV clip of a triple kill that I got at level 4 with Warwick, and I flash engaged with an E to start the fight, and somebody commented, "Oh, that was a nice little trick, flash engaging with the E. I'm going to try that." And those little things that I think the 4 of us take for granted, like we just, you know, those things, like they pop in our head, like, all right, flash E, that just makes sense, right? Like you're flashing, you're fearing somebody, but like other players may not understand those mechanics or why that is a good play or when to use that play. So little things like that you can use to continue, like you said, through Hecarim. You can flash E to get a little bit further on your dash range to push somebody back, or you can flash a little bit further to get a little bit more range in your ultimate. We've talked about auto attack, or excuse me, ability canceling previously, where Shen can get further taunt range if he flashes at the end of his taunt. So if you want to hear that podcast, shit, that was probably 20 episodes ago at this point, go back and listen to it. But yeah, those little interactions, just being able to flash and use an ability that adds some kind of CC, are the little pieces of a kit that I like to see in new champions, and I hope more champions get those little interactions, no matter how minute they are, or may seem, I should say.
Yeah, Yorick really didn't have anything like that, did he?
A flash ult. That's all you had. And Q never felt engaging to use. You spun in a circle.
No, I'm sorry. Yorick. You misheard me. Yorick after the rework. He doesn't have any of those types of little interactions. He's pretty.
Before.
I mean, I think he's pretty good, but he's pretty straightforward in what you're supposed to do with him.
So speaking of the flash taunt, now that Warwick's ultimate is a skill shot, is the ultimate flash combo a possibility, do you think? No. I mean, we know it works on newer champions, so it works on Camille with E. At the end of her E, she can flash onto a target and then hit them with the stun.
Oh, yeah, you can do that at the end. I've done it.
You have?
Yeah, in the very end of it,
Oh, shit.
You can flash a little bit further and still get the stun off.
With Infinite Duress?
Yes.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can
like
do that,
that.
or you can flash before you do it. For those of you out there that don't know, if you're playing against Azir, because for some reason I've been playing a lot of them, his wall does come from behind him and knocks you off if you jump on him. So if he's fast enough to press R while you are in the air or about to land, you will get knocked off of him.
I did this. I assume it works the same way, but one time I was playing Janna, and I charged up a Q, and then Warwick hit me with Infinite Duress, and then I just pressed Q again to send my tornado, and it just knocked Warwick right off.
Yeah, you can't be CC'd while you're mid-air, but as soon as you land, you can be CC'd. And
Which I don't think was... That was the infuriating part, right? Like, I don't think it was Azir's intention to time it when he did.
right.
It just worked out that way. That
it was
it
just
landed as
because
soon as
he-
you landed on him.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he knew. I think he knew that you were coming for. I guess it didn't matter. Like he knew you were coming at them and everything, and that's why he used the ult. I'm sure he didn't even realize that you weren't crowd controllable during the lunge itself, but it didn't matter because it got you at least twice.
Oh yeah, and I got hit by it the other night too, playing against an Azir. Like Azir is my bane at this point.
Goddamn his ears.
It is kind of
back.
annoying to use Infinite Duress. Like you can be the only team fight initiator, but you have to catch somebody out of position because you can't just jump into the middle of the team fight and grab the ADC anymore. You have to run through the team and then jump and then hope you don't hit anybody in the skill shot.
That
That's where you
has...
got to use the flash.
Well, I guess he has... I mean, he couldn't do that before either. I mean, he still has the same weakness where if he's suppressing somebody, he could get knocked off of them. But I guess he has a little more room to work with his ultimate and E, where maybe if everyone's crowded together and he's able to land his ultimate on somebody and fear everyone else away, that grants him a little bit of time to channel the full ultimate.
He has much better flanking potential than he did with the old ultimate because he can ignore so much terrain now.
And he looks way cooler when he runs too.
He sure does.
Oh,
That tail
like
is so
you
cute.
you just want to do stuff when he's running like that. Like you're all right. I'm fucking running around on all fours. It is time to murder something. I don't care what it is. I'll murder a bird. I'll kill a person. I'll kill a rat. Kill a mountain. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna kill something.
So is Chira going to become the Wolf Man? Can we add that to his list of identities?
Oh,
Hope
God.
so.
I want him to
Bloodman,
scream,
the Wolfman, the
"Oh,
Birdman.
I am the Wolfman."
We'll see what happens. I'm not committing to. I'm not
See how he
committing to
feels.
anything.
Sean, you got to do the wolf howl.
See.
You got to do the wolf howl.
I did it. I got a ton of them. I was screaming. I'm
surprised.
like, I'm coming
I'm not
for you.
surprised by that.
You better run. It's more fun when they run.
You guys are ridiculous.
Oh, come on. You got to get into it.
We
So,
love you, Sean.
yeah, we love you. Let me make sure I went through here. Oh, the only other piece that I wanted to bring up about Warwick is that I think he is a slightly worse Vi at this point. I think Vi does everything that he wants to do better than he does. But, and when I mean slightly worse, I mean maybe 1 or 2% worse. Like, he's still a lot of fun. They have similarities in the fact that they're healthy when they come out of the jungle. They both have a...
He just
an
seems like a
ultimate-
more offensive Vi.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, so
there you go, yeah.
statistically,
He doesn't
he's
doesn't
6%
facilitate like Vi
worse.
does.
Well, I think they have different play styles. I mean, so their ults are the thing that you look at immediately and say those are comparable, right? And Vi's is much more effective at initiating because she can't miss her target. She just goes through everybody and you can't even stop her.
Right.
Warwick seems better designed, as we were saying a little bit ago, kind of as a flanker, someone who's better in a pick comp, but much better at roaming. And you can also stick to his target better. Whereas Vi, if Vi doesn't kill her target with her ultimate and a Q, and she should. I mean, a good Vi will probably kill her target during that. But if she doesn't, then her target can just walk away, and Vi really can't get back to them.
He's really not going to build enough attack damage to make him any kind of good split pusher, is he?
No, he has to have Tiamat to do anything, right? Like you have to build Tiamat.
Yeah, but
then you need to be picking people off instead of split pushing and being on a weird side of the map. But that's the case for most junglers because you have to be where the objectives are. By the way, he can take Dragon at level 4 or 5.
Well, I
without a
mean,
problem.
if
Gladiator hasn't
again,
changed.
I don't know. I want to try him in top just to do it because I always do that.
Yeah, I want to try him again.
If that's the case, I would build him to try and split push with just because I think it'd be fun to do. But even doing that, it's kind of limiting in a way, because between his ultimate and Blood Hunt, like there's so much space that you can make up in situations where those aren't going to present themselves as readily if you're stuck in top lane all of the time. You're
missing out on a lot of potential.
Yeah, you're missing out on probably, like, most definitely the most optimal way to play him, in that, like, you want to be able to move around and then be able to jump or like move the vast distances in such a short time that so many other champions cannot do.
And like you were saying, like the only time that will really come online is when you're split pushing, and then you have the opportunity to rotate back to your team,
right,
or rotate to a flanking position,
right, like
which is kind of like in the
mid-late
game.
Do you remember old
Was
top
that done?
Warwick?
Yeah, I mean, old top Warwick was borderline like full tank Warwick, Spirit Visage, maybe get some sort of on-hit item, and then Frozen Heart and a couple other things, and you just become a giant.
He's the same way right now.
Didn't you play Warwick in our real fun, like, 10-game winning streak way back when?
Oh, I don't remember. I know I played top Warwick and when we were playing like ranked 5s and stuff back in the day. Like, I liked top Warwick. He's pretty much the same way. It's just now he can't be tower dove as easily because he gets that passive. Like, that's what's cool about his kit now, is if you're playing him in a duel, you have a lot of opportunity to outplay your opponent through when you're using E and how you're healing.
If that's the case, what are you looking at Warwick? If you play him top, are you looking at, like, instead of Tiamat, you just go Blade of the Rune King and full tank, or just go Tiamat?
Tiamat. I think you're just. Okay. I think you're starting at Tiamat. You don't really need the extra lifesteal because your passive is giving you so much when you're
Titanic Hydra.
Yeah,
tank items.
Titanic 100% because he scales so well with AD through his Q, and Titanic gives him extra life to stay healthy. Titanic's fantastic on him. I build Titanic first item after Blood Razor out of the jungle all the time. Deadman's is amazing on him because it makes the ult range.
Because he's already moving all the time anyway.
Finally a use for that item.
Right.
Spirit Visage, of course, because you need that extra healing when you're below.
Would you go Wit's End out of top lane?
Maybe fourth item after you've picked.
I'm gonna pretend. I know you have a long-standing love affair with that item, Dom, but that item hasn't existed to me in 4 years. Yeah. So
it's just not a good item to pick up any time before number 4. Really,
it's not.
I'm not saying rush it. I just don't like. I'm really not that big a fan of Blade of the Ruined King. That item gives you the active, but otherwise, like,
I love it.
For what you're investing, Blade of the Ruined King gives you such a underwhelming passive now.
It's not. It wouldn't be good. Like you said before in chat, you had mentioned Trinity Force. I have seen Trinity Force in Champion GG builds. I think if you're like far enough ahead after you get your Tiamat, you can just go straight in the T Force, get your smite and go straight in the T Force because you have a lot of opportunity to reset the Sheen with Q.
Well, I was gonna say with a little bit of CDR, you can get your Q cooldown to like 3 seconds, which is right.
Trinity Force is giving you now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's giving you a ton of CDR.
That's why I like building Kindle Gem early on him too. And we'll go back to previous conversation. That's why I kind of want to bake 5% into his kit somewhere. Find a way to put some extra CDR through runes or whatever masteries. Speaking of masteries, I'm not taking the extra attack speed. I am taking the ability power, the sorcery mastery to make Q hit harder. And exposed weakness. I don't remember the name of the ability power mastery. And then also double-edged sword. Yeah, natural talent, double-edged sword. Because 5% extra damage. Fuck you. You can hit me for 2.5% more. I'm just going to heal it right back up.
Is AP Warwick dead?
Yeah, I think his Q is the only thing that's got an AP ratio.
You could argue he has been dead.
But
yeah, I mean, the Q does have a 90% AP ratio.
Yeah, but it has a 120% AD ratio.
Right, like what's the point?
Why? Yeah, I don't give a fuck if it has a 90% AP ratio. It has 30 more % on.
Why did they even add it?
He didn't have it until he went live, or just before they went live, they put it on there for God knows why.
For old time's sake.
I guess so.
I guess.
And yeah, that's pretty much Warwick in a nutshell. Please go play him. I think he's a lot of fun. If you can grab him in a game, I haven't been seeing him banned a lot recently either. So if you can play him and you're a jungler, I think you will like him a lot. Just make sure you build Tiamat. I can't stress that enough. You're basically doing the Rek'Sai build. You have to do it, or else you're gonna cry. My very first game, I cried so hard. I'm fucking doing Krugs at like level 6.
Oh,
No, is there? Do you have any backup item for a first buy item in case the game just goes so tragically bad for you early that you can't buy a Tiamat right off the bat?
You have to. Like you have
wouldn't
to.
you have
can't
to do
clear.
Cinderhulk then?
You would. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah. Oh, I've been considering, instead of Bloodraiser, building Cinderhulk on him, and then maybe getting a Blade of the Ruin King at some point. But I just think it makes too much sense to pick Bloodraiser. Why would I go Cinderhulk?
I mean,
Okay,
Cinderhulk is the most common, but it's a small number of games on either side. It feels like there's not a lot of consensus.
The situation you would go Cinderhulk in is if, because this is what I want to do so bad on him, is I want to build T-Force, and I haven't decided what the second thing is with Cinderhulk. So probably like end up going, if I can make it work, and it depends on how much of a benefit Tiamat is early, because if it's as big as you're saying it is, this might throw everything off.
You have to have it, Sean, if you're jungler. You have to have
you
it.
You say that, but I'm gonna find a way, because I always
You can't
do.
fucking clear
So
it, dude. It
here's-
takes forever to clear anything if you don't have
So
it.
Sean, here's the thing. Like, Tiamat costs 1,200 gold.
It costs
Yes.
Bami Cinder is 1,100. So like, even if the game goes critically bad at the
You could still
start,
buy it. Well, it's
you're
not
still
just that,
you're still
though.
better off going for the Tiamat.
You say that, but there are those situations then that, like, you're already that far behind. Buying that little bit of extra damage isn't really going to pick you back up into really being able to do anything with it. And if it's that bad and you might be grouping at that point, it may be better off just to have the extra health anyway, just so you can body stuff.
I don't know at what point in the game you're thinking. Are you saying that you went out and died at level 1, and then you came back and died at 3, and then
I'm
you
saying
came back out and
things
died
get
at
really
6
bad.
again?
I was
It's mid game and you can't afford a Tiamat.
I
Right,
was
like
honestly looking more towards is there anything other than Tiamat that you can fuck around with that you would see maybe, like,
I just don't see
even
anything
if
with
it's
it.
80% as effective as Tiamat, is there anything
No.
else that you think you could run around with?
I
'Cause
just don't. I just don't see it because you start with the rejuve bead. You don't need the potion at all. Like you don't have to start with rejuve bead. If you want to save that little extra gold, and you want to have a ward instead for some reason, you could do that, right? But like your first back is on 1,000 gold, and through a clear, you're going back on about 1,200 gold anyway. Even with a gank, you're going back a little earlier. So
I do have a question.
Yeah.
How is his dueling potential early?
really good.
Yeah.
I can duel
So,
any
like,
jungler at any point. I've never felt like there was a jungler I couldn't duel as long as I had red buff.
So
Even
let's say
Garner?
like Nerf Lee Sin
Yeah,
rolls in
matter.
and you're both full health. You have no problem thinking that you can probably fight him off.
No,
and
fuck
you're
you. I have E. I have 30% damage reduction if you jump on me, right? Like as
All right.
long as I'm outplaying the person, and that's where I said these are the finesse pieces. As long as you're outplaying the person. No, I've never felt like I couldn't duel anybody.
Skarner's the only one coming immediately to mind that I'd be like double or second guessing any decision to
that-
go into his jungle.
just slow him.
Yeah, you're not gonna
That's the difference.
get
between-
away from him. He's gonna stun you. He's gonna slow you. He's got shields and shit, and you're gonna be in his fields. You know.
Yeah.
That's the difference between you and me, Dom. I'm not afraid of anything. Fucking bring
Yeah.
it on. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm jumping through your ass. I'm fearing you. I'm healing my life back up. I'm getting more attack
I
speed.
spent
And then
spent
Lux
too much
comes from
time
mid lane and
backing
kills
you
me.
up and wondering how we got out alive and thinking, oh yeah, no, it was me keeping his dumbass alive.
Hey, I got the kill. What's it matter? I fucking outplayed my opponent. I didn't get hit by that skill shot. I flashed over that Q. We're all
and
good.
I shed 3 pounds of water weight.
I'm just keeping you in shape.
Sweating
pal.
life.
Well, that was an hour. That was 1 solid hour on Warwick.
That's 2 hours of
Yeah,
Warwick.
it was
you got.
2 hours.
That's
You
all.
got
This
2
is the,
hours
the
of
week
Warwick.
of the wolf. Let's go.
Week of the Wolf. I like it.
You playing him
Wolf-
tonight, Sean?
Sean's
Who
going
knows?
to bed.
I got homework. to do tonight.
See, I knew it. I knew that was coming out.
I was working on it before the show, and I have like 7 more things to do. tonight.
Patreon.com/T-Force Network. Next month, we're going to try to get Ivern on the podcast, and we are also taking requests. So if you go to our Patreon Patreon page, patreon.com/T-Force Network, or our subreddit, and you want to request a champion that we don't already have, again, you can see the entire list. There are 41 Champion Select podcasts out there for $10, and you get 2 every month that you give us $10.
That's almost half the champions.
Not the 7 that I guess.
Almost a third?
Yeah.
The champions?
Yeah.
We're getting there.
That's a lot.
Someday.
That's so many champions.
And at someday, the well is going to run dry, and then Patreon's going to go down the tube. I understand
We'll
this.
burn it all down.
Just keep supporting us, please. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the Trinity Force Network. Thank you for giving us your money. We are using that money to come back and give you better shows. And you might see, I just want to throw this out there for everybody else, that you might see some changes coming with the proper in the future with, we're going to rotate some guests. I had a lot of good feedback about Santana coming on. I know Punch and Sean are having a hard time hitting the show on certain days of the week. So we're going to try to rotate some guests in their spots when they can't be available. So proper just might see some of those. So if you like Santana, I'm sure he'll come back. If Marine Revenge works out, he might come back again. Same thing with other guests. We're going to try to rotate people in and out to continue to give you guys the best show that we can. So a lot to look forward to in 2017. And that's it. That's episode number 416 of the Trinity Force podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you on Monday with Marine Revenge. Peace.
Have a good one.
Bye.